So let's dive into your fourth album on your list of favorite albums. So Tony Williams, Tokyo Live. This is in 1993. Um, man, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes
It's
worth of
long.
music, and it's live. And I felt like I'm just witnessing genius for 2.5 hours. Can you describe to our listeners who don't know Tony Williams and have not heard this album? Can you, I guess, share a little bit of what they could expect if they were to go check it out right now?
Tony Williams, and we're talking the cream of the crop drummers: Vinnie Colaiuta, Simon Phillips, Greg Bissonette, um, Dave Weckl. Any of those kind of drummers that saw Tony Williams, watch him play, they would cry. That's how good he was. Now, he wasn't a guy that does all these gospel fills that are today. He wrote drum parts and drum licks that we still steal from today. He's no longer with us. God rest in peace, Tony. But he would play just cymbals. And somehow, some way, you would hear tonality that no one could bring out of a cymbal. Just writing cymbals, you're like, how is this possible? Then he would drive a band, meaning on a ride cymbal, playing the jazz spangalang thing, da 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 da, and then go da 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 da. Didn't play the traditional jazz pattern ride. He took a chance and changed that all up, called breaking the ride cymbal up, and the ferocious movements on his drums. He didn't play the typical drum sizes, which is an 18-inch kick drum, a 12-inch rack tom, a 14-inch floor. Coated heads, mind you. He played control dots, which are clear heads with a black dot in the middle, which were more for rock. A 24-inch kick drum, 2 racks, 3 floors, and a plethora of cymbals. This was unheard of for bebop. And played super hard, but also delicate to the touch when he had to. He did things that drummers were not doing in bebop. And his arrangements, his melody, he even covered Lady Bird, Beatles.
Blackbird.
I mean, so Lady Bird, Blackbird, and did a jazz composition to it, and it's phenomenal. Now, my favorite record, even though that's the live one I picked, is called Neptune, and a song called Juicy Fruit. Hands down is one of my favorite Tony Williams compositions. But I like the live setting because there's chances being taken. And you feel that. You feel like you're there. Somehow, some way, they made it feel like you were at the concert.
What's funny is I start listening to the album, and so the first song, Geo Rose, is 11 and a half minutes long, and I'm 3 minutes in, and there's only been drums, and I'm thinking this might be 2.5 hours of just drumming. Like, it might be just him alone, and I was ready to take that in, and then after 3 minutes, the band kicks in. But there's several parts like that. Later on, there's other songs where it's just drums for a long stretches of
Mm-hmm.
time. I mean, that's got to be hard as the drummer on his own to just keep everything going just by himself. It's like you don't hear that too often unless someone's technically doing a drum solo. You're like, oh, here's the drum solo. But for him to be
Yeah,
playing a song without any accompaniment, it seemed like it was something different.
and it can get boring. But for some reason, somehow, some way, he kept you captivated through the entire 15-minute drum solo, 3-minute drum solo, because he wasn't just playing flashy stuff all the time. He was technically playing melodies on those drums, where he would start like a tribal thing. The rudiments, the Swiss Army triplet, but he would go and stuff like that. And it was like a roller coaster of emotions. It was, he's definitely hands down my favorite drummer of all time.
Yeah, and these songs, I mean, almost all the songs are over 10 minutes each. And a lot of the
Yeah, it's
songs
like
are
Tool.
15 to 18
It's
minutes,
like
and it's
Tool meets
live.
Indagata Vida. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So he just to go back to the beginning. So he started playing drums professionally at just 13 years old. And then you mentioned at 17 he was drumming for Miles Davis. I mean,
Mhm.
you're playing for one of the greatest artists of all time at
Of
17.
all time. Of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, and he also played with Chet Baker, Herbie Hancock, and Carlos Santana. So it's not just that if all he did was play with Miles Davis, that would be incredible. But he went on to play with lots of the greats.
Yep. A lot. Alan's Holsworth. Yeah. Tons of greats.
So one more thing here. In 1970, music critic Robert Christgau described him as probably the best drummer in the world. So quite the quote there.
In the world. Now, you can go into a 9 hour debate who's the best drummer in the world. I don't believe there's anybody except Tony Williams. But Buddy Rich is known to be the greatest drummer of all time. He had the chops, and he is one of my favorites. But Tony, I don't know, stylistically a word? I don't know.
Yep.
Um, could play anything. He was even dabbling, I think, in double bass right before he passed. And I believe the crazy way he passed, I got my gallbladder out too. He got his gallbladder out. And then his wife was in the room as he's recovering and complained about his chest. And they thought it was gas from probably extending his stomach to get into his gallbladder. And then he died from a heart attack
He's
right
51.
there
So
after
young.
his surgery. I think that's what I've been told. I don't
That's
know.
what I read. That's the story I read.
Okay.
And he was only 51. It's so sad.
Yeah. So many more years to lay groundwork for all of us. But I don't care any drummer, they at least know Tony Williams.